What's up, guys? This is Chills again, back with another episode of the Snub PvP Basics Guide. And this episode is going to be about ship choice. What ship do I fly when I'm starting out in fighters? And what should I choose? Why should I choose it? What are the differences? And in this case, I'm going to stick mainly to very heavy fighters for this episode. Very heavy fighters are the standard fighter class, I would say, for Discovery's general populace. They're the easiest and most well-rounded fighter class in the game to use, and are the easiest to learn effectively. Heavy fighters, some people may make the argument that heavy fighters are a bit easier to use in terms of their mobility, but I find with their lower power core and their lower thrust, duration, they are a little bit harder to use effectively in a group fight scenario, and in duels, heavy fighters are a little bit harder to pilot because they rely on mobility, which means your movement has to be stellar for heavy fighters to outclass very heavy fighters. So for that reason, I want to stick to very heavy fighters for the sake of this video. But this is really going to start very similarly to the last episode, which was gun choice. In Discovery, you are role-playing a character. That character is typically associated with a faction or a group of players or an NPC group under Freelancer or Discovery Freelancer's lore. So what does that mean? That means that if I'm a Liberty Navy pilot, sorry, I'm mincing my words, talking and recording all these episodes, but if I'm a Liberty Navy pilot, I should fly a Liberty Navy ship, and if I'm a Bounty Hunter pilot, I should fly a Bounty Hunter ship. If I'm a Corsair pilot, I should fly a Corsair ship. The default answer to what ship should I fly depends on the character you're flying and the character you're choosing to roleplay within Discovery. So if that's the case, pick whatever faction your ship associates with. If you don't like that ship, or you think it's ugly, or you think it sucks, or whatever reason, then go to your traditional Eagle or Saber or Jackdaw or any of the universal ships that do not require or are not bound to a tech cell. I would say really is the default answer. Now, you have some people that really just want to get better at PvP, and they want to get better at killing other people on Discovery Freelancer, which is another viable way to play the game, provided that you're following the rules and at least doing the minimum amount of effort in terms of roleplay. For those people, which was really kind of where I started, to be quite honest with you, I started really as a player that just got into Discovery for the PvP. I like to shoot other players. I like to use fighters because that's the original Freelancer's design, and that's how I got started within the community. Those people are really probably looking for a ship that is well-rounded and a good, learning block or building block to base your, skill sets off of. And really what I would say to that is the Defender would be my first choice when it comes to picking a ship to learn on for the sake of con. And even when I have new players join the PvP server and they are looking for a recommendation on a ship to train with, I will give them the Defender as the first choice. I think a close second would be something like the Odin Mark I, and I'll get into a little bit as to why I choose those two ships as my preferred starter ships for players that are training to get better in fighters. To provide context to that, you have ship classes like very heavy fighters, and light fighters, but within those ship classes, you have dozens of ships within those classes, and even those perform differently. Within very heavy fighters, some fighters are heavier than others. A ship like a Titan is flown much differently than a ship like the Defender or like a Wyvern or a Saber, right? So you have so many different, ways to play very heavy fighters depending on the ship you're flying. A ship like the Valkyrie, which is the Rhineland, iconic Rhineland ship that you saw throughout the majority of the Freelancer campaign, is an extremely mobile ship, but it only has 5 weapon slots versus the standard 6. So there's drawbacks, and there's pros and cons really to any ship you're flying, and there's nuances to those ships. So what does that mean for you? When you learn, if you're playing to learn how to PvP, you want to pick a ship that is middle of the road and that is well-rounded. And I think the Defender and the Odin Mark I are both ships that are well-rounded. They're not too light or too heavy to where you can't translate those skill sets to flying a heavier or a lighter VHF. If you can fly a Defender well, you could probably fly a Valkyrie pretty well. Now, the Valkyrie is a little bit more extreme in terms of the mobility, but the Defender requires that you move well because of the way the ship is designed. But a ship like the Titan, for example, if you can fly a more mobile ship, you could certainly fly a less mobile ship. You'll just fly it a little bit differently. So I think a ship like the Defender, the Odin, provides a good baseline skill set without you, becoming too reliant on one method of flying or the other. If I'm flying a Valkyrie, for example, and I become really comfortable with an extremely fast, high turn rate ship, when I go to fly a Titan, or when I go to fly a Saber or something that's more heavy, I'm going to have a much harder time adjusting to the slower turn rate of the ship, whereas with something like a Defender or an Odin, that change is a little bit less extreme. Conversely, if I'm used to flying a Titan in a straight line and tanking damage because it's a heavier ship, and with a smaller hitbox, it makes it harder to hit. Going to something like a Valkyrie is going to be a big change. You have to fly those ships differently because those ships play to different strengths. So keep that in mind when you're choosing your ship. Ships that have higher nanobot and shield battery counts are going to be heavier ships, usually. Ships that have less guns, like the Valkyrie, with only 5 weapons, are typically going to be faster. And you can see, if you look at the ship's statistics here, you can look at turn rates, right? Max turn at 69 degrees, 69.47 on a Defender is higher than a lot of other ships in the game. It's also lower than some ships in the game. So really it's a matter of looking at all of those things too. But when you're learning how to train, I think finding a specific, finding a middle-of-the-road ship that is kind of a jack-of-all-trades is a good way to go when learning snubs. So something like the Defender or Odin Mark I are my first choices. But really, you are bound to the availability of what your character you choose is flying at the end of the day. At the end of the day, if you're a Corsair, you should fly a Corsair ship. If you're flying a Liberty Navy pilot, you should fly a Liberty Navy ship for the most part. Everyone has their own story, and some people may choose to do things differently, but I'm more of a purist in that sense. That's my take on, what ships to fly, and I hope this maybe provides some color when looking to choose a specific ship. See you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.